Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you might be in the world. Welcome to the U.S. Data Platform and Advanced Analytics Partner Community Call for September 2016. We are very excited to welcome you here today. My name is Nick Johnson, and I'm a part of the community team here in the partner channel as a part of the U.S. Partner Development Group. And we're just really excited that you chose to invest an hour of your time with us today. Just a few housekeeping items before we jump into our topics for the day. You are in a listen-only mode in your browser, but if you have any questions or feedback for us during today's presentation, down in the lower left-hand portion of your browser window, you should see a Messages button. You can click on that, you can type in a message, and we will either respond on the call or with a private message back to you. So feel free to use that at any point during today's conversation to have a dialogue with us. I do need to remind you that we are recording the call today, so if you do not consent to being a part of a recorded call, you should disconnect now. During today's call as well, our presenter is going to be using some slides. We always like to make those available for you to download. So those are available to download on our Yammer group. I just posted a message into the chat window on the left-hand side of your browser. If you want to download those slides at any point, they will be available on the Yammer group. And lastly, the call is being recorded, as I mentioned. The recording will be available to view later on today or tomorrow at the latest. So if you're interested in following along with that, make sure you join up with our Yammer group to get more information about when that's available. Just a quick look at our agenda for today. Welcome, or we're really glad that you chose to be here. We know you have a choice at where you invest an hour of your time, so thanks for doing this. We are going to give you some community updates, and then we've got a couple of guest speakers, or a guest speaker as a part of our community who's going to share some of his experiences on some of the learning and how to build up some of your own personal technical knowledge and muscle around the various analytics and machine learning capabilities that Microsoft is bringing to market. So we're really excited to hear about that over the next few minutes. Just a heads up, if you've been a part of any of the U.S. technical communities for partners in the past, you may have experienced in our previous fiscal year, so Microsoft starts its fiscal year in July, of course, so previous to that, we had two. Really, we had an Azure community and we had an Office 365 community. These have been really successful. Thousands of partners, quite literally, have joined them over the last year, and we're really excited for that. Hopefully, you're being a part of those as you're seeing some of the value coming out of those. So to be able to give more focus and more time to the various topics as Azure and as the cloud platform at Microsoft continues to grow, we want to be able to give the appropriate amount of time to all the various communities that need it. And so we've added several. So if you in the past were a part of the Azure community, what you were a part of has become the Azure Infrastructure and Management community. To support that, we've also spun up an application development community. So if you're doing any of the quote-unquote PaaS work on Azure, that would be the place that you're going to find a lot of that. So a lot of the web applications, application development, API management, everything to do with application development. And then today, you are here at the Data Platform and Advanced Analytics community. This is going to be a great community. I'm really excited about this because I think this is one of the hottest trends in the industry today. So you're just going to learn a lot here. We also have the Enterprise Mobility and Security community. So if you want to be a part of learning really what's going on in the EMS, the new EMS E3, E5 SKUs, things like that, you'll want to join up with that. And then lastly, we've just added, an open source solutions community. So if you or someone in your organization spends quite a bit of time on the open source side of the world, we're learning very quickly that Azure is extremely friendly to open source, and we're really proud of that here at Microsoft, and we want to make sure that we support that in our partner community as well. So we've just spun that up, just launched it last week, in fact, so there's going to be a community call for those folks coming up next week. So if you're interested in being a part of that open source solutions community. Again, all these slides are available to download in the Yammer group that I mentioned earlier, and I posted the link in the chat window. So if you want the links to any of these groups, those are available for you. One thing we get asked is, wow, there is so much information to stay up with as a partner. How do I keep it all straight? So here's a really good slide that several folks on our team have worked hard to put together that's got information about where can you go to stay connected to all these different resources that you as a partner can tap into to help build your business, both on the business side of things, the technical side of things, the profitability side of things, the support side of things. There's a lot going on. We know that. And so we're doing our best to try to keep you up to date with all that information. So if you want to stay informed as a partner, here's a really good resource that's going to help you do that. And with that, I actually want to turn the floor over to my friend Shri. And Shri is going to be our community lead for the data platform and advanced analytics community. So you're going to see his name all over stuff. But he's also got a team of people that's working with him. So Shri, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you introduce some of the things that you've got going on.
Thank you so much, Nick. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm super excited to, along with Nick, kick off the very first data platform and advanced analytics community call here this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. As Nick mentioned, in the past, we've had a community that's focused on Azure overall, but with the increasing focus within Microsoft to be very workload specialized, we have this whole community just focused on data platform and advanced analytics. So I'm really excited again, and we will have a set of topics and a set of other community options that are just focused on data platform. So on the slide, you see there are 3 different ways of engaging with the data platform and advanced analytics community as a partner. So if you are a partner, one of these 3 resources or avenues, is how we are going to communicate with you and how you can communicate with us. So on the top left, you see our Yammer page. So, we have a set of folks in our team that are actively monitoring this. And so if you have any discussion items or if you have any topics that you want to share, the Yammer is a great way for you to get engaged with us on, and you see the link there on the slide. The other way is also we're going to be publishing a series of blog posts, and you see the link there for the US DPA blog, and you see an example of a post that I shared a couple of months back around hybrid scenarios using SQL Server. But we'll have a number of topics, and we'll keep you up to date on some of the latest trends, and important investments that we are making around data platform and analytics using that blog post. That's another great channel for you to access and get information around. And the last one is obviously this call that we have, and encourage you to sign up for the upcoming calls also. We'll have this monthly, and we are working on a set of really, super important topics that we're going to focus on here over the next couple of months. So definitely sign up for these calls and encourage your friends and other partners that you may know of to sign up for these. So this is another way for us to obviously interact as well. And as you can see today, we're going to have a great topic also. When we think about data platform and advanced analytics, one of the things that I want to highlight here before we get into today's discussion is, how do we sort of sub-segment this workload? Obviously, data platform and analytics covers a lot of different areas. And for us here at Microsoft, these are the 3 important workloads within this data platform space that, we are focused on. And as partners, I encourage you also to be focused on these and give us feedback on, where you think it makes sense and, some of the work that you're doing around these areas. So the first one, we talk about is business intelligence, big data, and data analytics. So, and today's topic is going to be focused more around this space, right? How do we basically do data exploration and visualization? What are some of the trends around big data and data warehousing? What are the Microsoft offerings around predictive and advanced analytics? Those are kind of the scenarios we're focused on when we talk about BI, big data, and data analytics. The second workload or item that we are focused on within data platform is data platform modernization. This is our traditional bread and butter SQL Server data platform. So this involves things like, how do we make sure our customers are modernized when it comes to data platform by using the latest and greatest around SQL Server 2016 and its related capabilities. Also, how do we get customers to migrate off of our competing workloads, whether it's Oracle, IBM, and other workloads? We have a lot of focus on, getting customers to understand the value of our offerings, whether they're using our older products or whether they're using some of our competitor products. So that's the whole data platform modernization umbrella. And then the last one is IoT, Internet of Things, which I know is a very hot topic, and I have a lot of customers and businesses that are interested in this, and that also falls within our data platform and analytics space. And so, in our community calls that are upcoming in the next, few months here, we will have topics that are focused on any one of these 3 areas. We'll hopefully mix it up so that way you get, some information on BI, big data, and data analytics, some information on data platform modernization and IoT. But all these 3 are very critical areas of focus for us. On the next slide, I'm going to talk about, the community lead. So I'm overall going to lead up the data platform and advanced analytics community, and you see my picture there in the middle. And so if you have any questions, anything like that, please feel free to again, use one of the channels, Yammer, blogs, or these calls to give us feedback. I also have two counterparts that are going to help me host these calls along with me and help me with the Yammer and blog posts. Sadie Van Buren, you see on the left, she is our lead for the East region. She's based in Boston. And then we also have Subhash, who is based on the West Coast, and he's our lead for the West region. So we have good time zone coverage across the three regions. I'm based in Dallas. I'm in the Central region, but I'm going to be overall leading up the community efforts. I've been with Microsoft 17 years, focused primarily on data platform and analytics, so have a lot of experience in SQL Server. But I'm really excited to work with all of you partners who I know, are the key resources for us at Microsoft to, really help our customers in this space. So with that, I'm really happy once again to kick off today's call and introduce you to our next speaker, who is Chris Kars. Chris is one of the cloud solution architects in our team, and he's got a really exciting topic today around advanced analytics. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Chris.
Thanks, Tantri. I definitely appreciate it. In addition to the blogs, community calls, Yammer groups, I did want to, before I dive into some of the competitions and the degree in data science that we're going to spend most of our time on, I did want to bounce quickly over to the Learn Analytics site. You can see it on here. It's learnanalytics.microsoft.com. And I will now go to it. So again, while that's loading, as Sri said, I'm a cloud solution architect, data solution architect, predominantly focused on partners in the central region, but very willing to help partners anywhere. Specifically as it comes to machine learning and analytics, what we're trying to do around our predictive space in that nature. So I think everybody can see now my screen, so I'll keep going. So this is learnanalytics.microsoft.com, and why this is so important is because the product group that we're working with really is going to take hold of this site and drive a lot of the new learnings around cognitive intelligence, around bot framework, around the newer things that are coming out, and start to drive it towards this portal. So you'll see in our blogs, in our community calls, in our Yammer groups, we'll have pointers back to this site. But it's a good site to reference, and it's going to be updated October 1st with all the new content. But you can see there's some free video training out there. There'll be live online training, again, in addition to this call specifically for analytics, and then classroom training, so you can sign up for specific if you need R help or you need some other type of training that's going to be Microsoft R Server, something newer, like I said, cognitive intelligence or bot framework. We'll be putting in the classrooms and posting them on there. So I did want to make sure everybody understood that resource because that was a pretty important resource as we go down. Okay, now let's jump into the meat of the call. So I created a blog post the other day, and as I was thinking about what would be important to learn, what would be important to convey, I started to think about sports. And I know sports is an overused analogy, so I won't dive too far into it, but I do want to jump in there and talk about some of the competitions because it is a very good way to look at what we're trying to do. So when I was in school, I played football, baseball, basketball, all the types of things that you had to have someone to compete against. It was very difficult to judge how well you were doing until you had another team, your rival or somebody else that you were competing against. That's what was the measure of success. As one of my daughters started cross country not too long ago, it was very interesting because I'd never really experienced that dynamic of being able to run a race you knew you were never going to win, but you could say, I'm going to judge against myself. I'm going to look at how well I did, and every race I'm going to go for a PR. I'm going to try to get just a little bit better than I did last time. So even though you may end up, and we'll talk about the competitions, there's 500 or 600 people that entered in one competition, and I finished 81st. 81st isn't a win, right? There was no chance I was going to get on the podium or the top 3 into the money. But every time I could iterate on that, and we'll talk about that, and we'll show you how to do that. Every time I iterate on that, I could get a little bit better and start to learn a little bit more. Well, how would I do this? Look at what some other people had done in other competitions and try to take that learning. And so it's not just competing to win. Hopefully, it's competing to learn. And so in this blog post, you'll see several things I talk about in that. So I wanted to jump in and show you that. So if you've never done any type of competition around Cortana Intelligence or Kaggle or any of the machine learning competition sites out there, this will be new to you. What this is Joseph Sharash, our VP of Data, came out earlier this year and said, not only do we want to give you great tools and let you use those tools for free to learn how to do some of the great things around machine learning, but we want to solve real world problems as we do this. We want to see if there's people that can come up with unique out of the box ways of looking at things. And so to do that, he introduced the concept of competition. And so these competitions typically run 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks, and allow you to create a machine learning model, go through that model multiple times, make sure you feel that it is comfortable and you have it right, then upload that model and use a private set of training data against it to see how well you did. That way you don't overfit the model with the data, et cetera. And so that really took off. And there's a couple here we'll go through. The first one is this tutorial really around iris multi-class classification. So I don't know much about plants, but obviously you can tell a lot about what the plant is by the petal length, the petal width, the sepal length, which is the little thing up here that holds the flower, the actual flower seeds together, and the sepal width. You can start to really determine what type of iris this is based on those things. But it's very difficult because it's not exact, right? There's not exact, you can't, or you can very rarely say if the petal width is, 2 centimeters, well, then it's always this type of thing. For those, it's pretty easy. But a lot of times there's a lot of overlap, so you have to really think through that. So we'll dive into the details on that one, but I just wanted to kind of talk about that. But the real world ones that are out there now, and the one that's open currently, is women's health risk. And so that's very important when you talk about looking at either breast cancer, in this case HIV in developing countries, determining how to articulate different protocols around medical and what we should do or what countries should do with their populations to help them understand dynamics and epidemiology, et cetera, a lot of things around that. So this is a real world example. This is real data from the WHO and other organizations that you can jump in and start to iterate on. And again, are you going to look at it as, hey, I could win the $5,000 if I win this? Maybe you can, and that'd be great, but that's not what it's really about. It's really about trying to come up with new algorithms or new ways of thinking about these problems, as well as for yourself to learn, because when you have a real problem like this that's meaningful, it really helps as you go through it. The decoding brain signals, which has now been moved into a tutorial as well, it ended a couple months ago. And that was a great one because it really focused on when you have a head injury, what they do is they flash pictures in front of you and they ask, can you tell, is this a human face or a house? And they put neurons or electrodes all over your head to test the neurons. And they see, hey, if these neurons are firing at a certain rate and the person can't guess whether this is a house or a face right away, then they probably have a concussion or they probably have some type of brain injury. And so looking at ways to determine brain injuries and being able to use machine learning to help doctors predict brain injuries better and faster and what type of injuries they are really important. So with that, before I jump into these, Nick, any questions in the window?
No, we haven't had any come in yet, but just a reminder for folks, if you have any questions for Chris during today's presentation, down in the lower left-hand corner of your browser, there's a place where you can type in a message and submit those for him. But Chris, you can go ahead and continue.
Okay. So again, the website, and again, feel free to ask questions along the way. I know this stuff can be a little bit heady. That's why I'm trying to put it in real-world terms and show you how easy it is. That way you can show, just get started. It's like everything. Your first time you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to run or whatever you're trying to do in life, the first ones are always the hardest. But once you get moving, you'll find that it's not really that difficult, and I just got to keep going at it. So if you go to gallery.cortanaintelligence.com, you'll get to this site, and then you can go to competitions, and that shows you where we're at today. And that link, again, is in the PowerPoint that Nick has shared. Once you click on the IRIS competition, you'll come here to the tutorial competition, quote, IRIS multi-class classification. And again, this isn't, some great medical knowledge, and you can get 100% on it depending on what you do. But it's really trying to help us understand the basics of competition structure, how to submit, all the little things that we'll walk through in just a second. So this is what you'll see. I've blown it up, so hopefully this looks pretty decent size on your screen. There's a summary. It gives you what you're trying to do, all the different things about that. If there's prize money, which again, there's for anything but the tutorials, there'll be actual prize money, $5,000 for first place, $3,000 for second place, and $2,000 for third place. That will be up here. For the ones that are complete, which I'll show you in a second, they'll actually have the names of who's won that. So description. some of the important things you'll see down here is the data files with the data definition. So very important to look at the data definition and understand what data is coming in. And it gives you a couple of pieces of information that's split really 60-40, but you can split it different ways as you're looking through it. And then probably most important when you're first starting out is the tutorial document. So in this one, if you do get stuck, I'll go through an example, but if you do get stuck, if you come back here, even if you get stuck on a different one, come back to this multi-classification tutorial document. It's a PDF. It is very good at step-by-step walking you through. So quite frankly, you don't even have to know ML to submit. You can just click through the document basically and submit. It'll be a very low score and you'll just be starting out, but it's good to get you going. And sometimes even I got stuck a few times, like, wait a minute, what did I do wrong on that? And go back to the document and say, oh, I forgot to transform the final statement or something like that. So it's very good to do that. Talks about the criteria. I won't go through the terms and conditions. Again, prizes will be focused on if there's an active competition, and leaderboard. And so what I wanted to say about this leaderboard is you can see up here, if my screen's refreshed, there were 8,000 views of this. 538 participants submitted 635 submissions. So of all the people that submitted, you can come down here and look that right now my public score is 95th. So I came in 81st. Right here, Chris Carr is 81st. So again, I didn't win, but I started to learn a lot more from when I first started. When I first started, I was even lower on my private training set, and I kept looking at it. I kept determining which features I needed to weight more, which features I need to clear, how I need to determine different statistical analysis on different pieces, and really got to 93.3%, which put me about 130th. But as I kept working on it over time, iterating it, I was able to get to 95%. Interesting, I completely switched the algorithm I was using and tried something, again, out of the box. Probably not something you want to do at a customer site, really, as you're looking at a customer and you're crunched for time and they're paying your bill rate per hour. Very rarely are you just going to kind of just have time to play around with it. But with this data, I could take out the entire algorithm, try something completely different, and you see my score went down, which is fine because that taught me something. I learned something now, how to do some things. So again, not competing to win, but competing to learn. So if you come up here and you click Enter Competition, so I'm going to click this, Enter Competition. It'll bring up this screen, Enter Tutorial. It has the basic model for you. So you have to click I fully agree, not just agree, but I fully agree to the terms and conditions and get starter experiment. If you don't have a Azure ML Studio subscription, you can get a free one from this site. It's very limited and you can't do much with it, but for the competition space, it's great to work on. So South Central in the United States is really most of the Azure ML stuff, if you don't know already from working inside Azure across the country. Azure ML is predominantly hosted in South Central, but it can be hosted other places as well throughout the world. So to create this for us, and I want to show you exactly what it creates so you can see where you get started. And then we'll do slightly like a baking show. I'll kind of show you as it comes out of the oven. Okay, so this is what it created for us, right? And it shows up here in the top, upper right, competition. So the steps to actually be in the competition are you have to get the starter experiment copied, so you can't start your own experiment with your own data and then submit it to the competition. You have to click that Start Competition button in the green button that I showed you a second ago. And then we'll walk through how to set up the predictive web service, get it deployed, and then submitted. And then you can view it in the gallery and see how well you did. And again, the first time I would just say submit it just straight, pretty much as it is, make a few transforms because you'll have to get it submitted, and then that's it. And just see how it is. Get that first one out of the way. It's like the first run of the season in cross country, right? You're not looking for any time. You're not looking for any score. You're just trying to make sure you can get through it and everything kind of works the way you think it does. And then you can really start iterating on how to make it better. So this was the model it created for us. It already had some basic things here like clear ID from feature set. So if we go up here and we right click, you run it once. So the first time I run it, it actually does just the model. There's no data that's been run through it. So it's going to go through and import the data, clear that feature that I talked about, train the model, run everything. So now if I right click here, I can go to visualize. See that? I want to make sure everybody saw that. So on all the outputs to everything in Azure ML, you can pretty much right click and do a visualize to see what happened. And that's a very useful tool when you're, quite often this is a very simple model, but when you get to complicated models and a lot of things are going different ways, you need to see your data frame. What exactly, I thought I transformed it like this, but it really didn't work that way. So you want to get here, you want to right click on that, go to visualize. And then take a quick look at the data. So in here, again, ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's no statistical meaning to that. That's just the base ID. That's why you saw that clear. Just clear that as a feature. So that wouldn't be a feature, and we can't really look at that. But you look at sepal length, which we just talked about, and petal length and petal width, and that's kind of what determines this, what type of iris it is. So in some of these, you can look at different, whisker diagrams or other, ways of looking at that data, but that's a good way to start to understand, hey, what's in this data set? What am I thinking about? What am I looking at? As I compare it to others, if I want to compare that to width, you can give me a scatter chart and I can start to understand, oh, here's some outliers, so 4.4 with the width, maybe that's not going to be what I need to do, piece of information like that. So that's just the start of what you're looking at. And so it clears that ID from the feature set, and that's really all it does in this model, just splits that then. And so the model can be trained with some of that data and then scored against it without that data. And if I go down here to evaluate model, right click and visualize. And you can see with a 2-class decision tree, you'll get a ROC curve and some other things. With a multi-class decision, either tree, forest, jungle, whatever you're trying to do, you'll get basically a box plot that you can go in and determine what, how it did, versus the training data versus the actual data that you sent in, and really figure out some piece of information on that one. Basically, accuracy is one of the key ones you'll be looking at. Okay, so that's pretty normal. If you've done any ML, you've probably done something like this many, many times, so there was nothing new to show you on that piece. So now I want to do set up web service. So as I set up web service, right, I just go predictive web service because I don't want to create a training or a retraining model, and it does everything pretty much just like we would see in the past. Now, one of the things I'll show you is because we're looking, again, if you can right click, when you right click on the output, you'll see it has a bunch of columns, but if I go back over here to the if I come back over here, you'll see the data files has all the inputs, and then in the evaluation criteria, you'll see the outputs. The output schema, and this is where you'll probably get messed up the first time. That's why I'm kind of hammering on a little bit. The output schema for the API has to be, it will reject it. If it doesn't have ID as the first column, that's a numeric form, and a second column called scored labels, that's a string. If it has anything besides this, it will fail the upload. And that's where most of you get frustrated and they, oh, I made my model, spent all my time getting my model right, and I did all my regression analysis and everything, and yet the dang thing won't upload. So this is the number one problem most people seem to have in uploading. So again, just from a baking show, I'll show you here. What it looks like. So all I did in this one is just apply this SQL transformation. Okay, so you saw everything was exactly like it was before. All I did was hit apply SQL transformation, drag it on here, and then instead of connecting the score model directly with the web service output, I do a little transformation on it beforehand. And so as you can see here, all I'm doing in that select, all I'm doing is a select statement, right? Because there's data, there's a whole set of data coming in. Let's look at that data coming in. So right click. Nick, is this keeping up screen-wise? I want to make sure I'm not going too fast on how the screen's working. So right click.
It looks good.
And then I hit visualize, I'll see there's a whole bunch of columns in there, right? There's ID, sepal width, there's all kinds of things very similar to what we had in the past, 8 columns. The first one was 6, so it added 2 columns for us. But we know the output has to only have two columns. It has to have a thing called ID and a column called scored labels. Okay, and so that's all we do in that SQL transform. Again, you can do it in R. It's just a data set coming in, and then you just manipulate that data set however you want. And again, this is in that tutorial document to explain that. This is, again, the one that messes most people up on that. So now, deploy web service. Yes. So again, if you've worked at ML, you spend a lot of time creating the model, getting it right, and then once you've got it right and you have a predictive experiment, then you deploy the web model, okay? And that allows you to call the API, right? All the standard API stuff is here, the API key, which is really important, as well as all the other things to call the API. The API itself is live, and you can see from down here. I could test it. I can go into other ways of looking at it. And now I'm going to hit down here. What is different when you have competition versus everything else? From if you were just normally doing this for a customer, you'd pretty much be done at this point. Once you tested it a few times, either with Excel or you sent your own things, you could get the actual. I'm going to right click here, or I'm going to left click here in the request response just to show you. We'll pull up another page. And if you're not familiar with this, it basically gives you a post statement if you just want to submit it straight from a post statement, or when you scroll down, it gives you the C#, Python, and R script. So again, if you're just if you're new to ML and this isn't super familiar to you, or you're used to machine learning but with different languages and not used to ML Studio, when we create the API, we create the API in a key, and then we give you the sample code. So all you really have to do to your programmers, and I get this question a lot from people who are like, "That sounds great, but I really don't know, how to put this into production." All you do is copy this and send it straight to your programmers. Select sample code and send, and then they can just paste it right into their code. Everything's set up the way it should be, and then just run it and start testing it right from there. So I'll close that. So submit competition entry. So once we've done this, again, everything's checked under competition, starter experiment, predictive, web service submitted. We're all good to go. Now submit competition entry. It brings up this box. I agree to the above terms. I don't fully agree. I agree, which is interesting. Nomenclature. You can change the name of your submission if you're trying to track that. And no errors. So again, this is where most people get messed up. If you didn't do that SQL transform, or if you didn't create the right output at the end, you'll get errors here, because it will notice that, hey, when I tried to call the API, it sent me back 4 fields, and I'm only looking for 2, so I don't know what they are. So again, you'll submit it, just click yes, and it will go ahead and submit it into the gallery and start working on it again. That's all there is to competitions. I can view it right here in the gallery. Yes. And it will show it to me in the gallery. It takes about, depending on the competition, it takes maybe 5 minutes for it to come up with a new one, because it has to go through all of its internal iterations on its data. But that's all there is to competitions. And everything else, like say when we look at decoding brain signals and some of the more complicated ones, you saw that in the iris one, it was 100, right? Everyone could overfit the data because there's only so many lengths and widths of these petals you're going to have. But in real world examples, when we talked about the brain decoding, the winner at 93.75%, that was a real algorithm that really thought about how to do this and spent a long time, these top winners, to really get to that. And you can see down here, I was 108th, which you say 108th isn't all that great, but still out of 688 participants with 1,800 submissions, that's not too bad. So iterating on that, trying to compete against yourself, and always trying to climb that leaderboard is a great way to use competition, use gamification to really come out and start to learn some of this stuff. And again, $3,000 for the first prize, $1,500, and here it is for the winners. So that's all there is to it. That's as easy as it is, and it took me less than 12, 14 minutes to do it. So pretty straightforward. Any questions on that one before I go on to the next section?
There aren't any questions that have been posted at this point, but if anybody has any, just feel free to type them in on your browser, and we'll relay those on to Chris.
Okay, great. And so I have a couple things down here in the blog post that I put out there. that might help you if you're just getting started thinking about some of this. One, look at the FAQ. There's a FAQ out there that really has a lot of the questions about why we're doing it, what, all the different things about submitting and legalities and stuff like that. But a couple of things I wanted to put in here as well that tend to help quite often is you can use the permutation feature importance. So at the end of that scoring, basically, when you're working on your model, you can drag this module onto your model and put the output into this input, and it will tell you, hey, it looks like this feature is used 13% of the time, or this feature is used 0% of the time. And so you start to look at that feature and say, maybe that feature isn't helping me at all, or maybe there's some reason why that feature isn't helping me because of wide variation in the data, or it's categorical and I didn't realize it, or things of that nature. So use this permutation feature importance quite often, and I'm telling you that's helped me drive my scores higher and higher in the stack. And then also, using metadata to remove columns, delete columns. You have to use a different edit metadata module for each thing you want to do, each transform, but you can put 10 or 15 in there if you need to keep transforming the data how you want to do it. Those are just a couple tips about the ML piece. Good. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the Microsoft Professional Degree in Data Science, beta. And the reason why I say beta is because we don't, although this was announced at Worldwide Partner Conference, we do not have officially locked down on the terms. And I think there's legal things about professional, the word, and degree, and other things. So accreditation, there's all kinds of things that go into the legal aspect. So I believe they're still working on that one, but should be almost done with that. And myself, and I know several Microsoft employees, Sri is on the call, and he can jump in as well as several partners were in our beta program to go through this. And so I wanted to kind of walk you through it and explain what it is. So really the first is there's a huge need in the United States and around the world for data science skills. It really is the hottest job growing. When you think about what we've been doing in the BI space and helping people understand where they're at today and why they got there, it's been very important, but much more important is either from an individual and business perspective, helping them understand, or directly in a healthcare or life sciences field. There's so many things we can do with data science, and so Microsoft wanted to jump into this space and really start helping people develop these skills. And so again, this is beta. I just want to keep saying that about 10 times, so there's no, I'm not confirming this will actually be released, but again, I believe strongly that it will be going forward. So the data science track for Microsoft Professional Degree Program, and again, on the website here, it's on the slide, so you can put it, you can download those slides, click it, and put your email address here. So when it actually goes live, you can do it. But even before it goes live, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it, even though it's in beta, is because we use the platform called edX. And if you use Coursera, same type of thing, right? edX, online MOOC. And the great advantage of the MOOC is its ability to use small, short classes that help you learn something. But as they change in our rapidly changing world, you can suck out that one course, so replace it with another one that's more the updated, and then everyone that's going through at that time gets the updated course, as well as if you want to keep up with your continuing education, you might only have to go back and take 2 parts of that MOOC, as opposed to trying to take the whole course over again. So much more efficient in a model of rapidly changing features, which is what we have today in our cloud-based world. So if you just go to edX.org, you can type Microsoft Data Science Curriculum, or you can just search Microsoft, and you'll start seeing a bunch of classes on here. But this is the curriculum that we talked about. There's 9 courses, and each course takes about, I'd say, closer to the 25 to 30 hours on each one, depending on how well you go through them and how much time you spend on them. And then a pretty big final project, which was, and this is the way I'm going to tie it all together, the competition. So there was actually a private competition held with some private data outside of purview of the regular competition site, but using the same mechanics to help judge whether we had actually been able to learn all this and put it all together. So a lot of MOOCs, you can kind of go and maybe you can not trick the classes, but maybe you can bounce back and forth, and you might not really understand the information as well as you could or you should. But when you actually get to the final project and you have to put it all together in a real competition, it really forces you to have to learn what you're talking about. So again, split into 4 basic fundamental units. The first one is just basics, right? And so the first course, data science orientation, really about statistics and starting to learn what all those terms were. Again, I had taken it in college many years ago and had forgotten, mean, standard deviation, all were pretty straightforward. But when you start getting into some of the data and different units of statistical analysis, you had to go back and really remember some of those things. So the first one's really about learning the data science basics, okay? And then the second core part was really going into data science. So in here, we started learning R. So if you're not familiar with R, I would say that's starting to be a pretty core piece of the data science curriculum, but you also have a choice to go with Python. So Python has some great some great libraries around data science. It's probably not as used as R. However, the good part about Python is it gives you the ability to do much more things outside of data science. R, since it's mainly focused around data frames and what we're trying to do around data structures, to use it for general programming would be a stretch. It's a little bit complicated for that. There's so many other good things under .NET and all. But Python, you would have that ability to float back and forth, so that's a good part of that. And again, just getting kind of that core piece of it. Then moving on to our applied courses, where we actually had to take what we had learned earlier and apply it to like intelligent apps. So again, I talked about perceptual intelligence and some of the things we're trying to do around context and voice to text and visual pattern matching, things of that nature, bot framework, all those were kind of under intelligent apps. And then the final capstone project, which I talked about. So again, all this is not on the Microsoft site, this is on the edX site. So you can go and you can start taking these courses. So I'll go back to the Microsoft site. And again, if you go there, you'll start to see data science orientation. So this course is enroll. You can go to edX, click on this and go to edX and enroll yourself. I think the first course is $25. It says down here. Yeah. You can audit any of these for free, actually. But if you want to get the certificate at the end, it costs $25 for the first course. And I would highly suggest if you're thinking about data science or you have people on your teams who are like, hey, I really want to get more into some of these predictive models, you'll be able to get into Azure ML so easy and so fast. However, you're going to hit a wall pretty quick unless you understand some of these concepts. So I would highly recommend that you or your team start getting, at least take the data science orientation to refresh and remember some of the statistical analysis tools and what we're doing and why you would use that in this scenario and why you wouldn't. Look at that. So that's a pretty important one. Then the rest of the courses, I think, are $50. There's one course that's going to be $99, but the rest of them are $49 each. And there's a course session going on right now for most, I think, almost all of these. And again, those are kind of the beta courses, but hopefully soon the actual full course will open October 17th through November 25th, and your people can, again, jump in. Great for consultancies where you have people working during the day or odd hours based on customers, and suddenly you get a week where you're fully billable. I understand that, and you need to get as much utilization as you can over a 2-week period or what have you. So you're at the customer site and you're really cranking it out, but then you have some other downtime. So again, these courses are open, fairly good time, 6 weeks or so, so you can really make sure you have the time to get through them. Some of these will be basic, like the Transact SQL one, because Sri and I had both done SQL before a fair amount. You could actually jump to the testing and test through some of these things. It's a good refresher, though, I would say, going back through it. But for Transact SQL, this one you might be able to, if you're pretty good with understanding outer joins, inner joins, cross joins, you'll do well in that course. Then we moved into, so the first part is just understanding data science, again, basic statistical analysis, querying with Transact SQL, because again, a lot of those transforms, a lot of things we're trying to do are around the SQL side of the house, and you're working constantly with tables and joining tables. One of the biggest things in data science when you first get to a customer site, they're like, okay, we have a bunch of data from all over the place, and now you got to figure out what it is. So you got to have those SQL skills to start extracting that data into a usable format in ML. So it's a very important skill. Then once you have it, this is an option course, so you can either do analyzing and visualizing data with Excel. I actually didn't do that one. I did the Power BI one. And working with Power BI for a while, it wasn't a super complicated course. But if you haven't done Power BI before, it's a great introduction to help you understand the service and what the desktop does and the power of it and how to create reports and forms and things of that nature, dashboards, to help you put those things in. So again, these are practical knowledge. So first you're just understanding a little bit about data science, then you're understanding more about SQL, so how to get that data in there. And once you have the data in there, now you can start analyzing it right away. You haven't really transformed it a lot, but you got the data in and you're looking at it and having other people be able to look at it. Then we come down here to statistical things for data science and analytics. So this is the course. Again, this one's $99 currently. It's not offered directly by Microsoft, but this is delivered by Columbia. And again, it's open for quite some time because it's a course outside of Microsoft. This one I thought was really great, and it gave you a lot of historical context as well. So the first few modules were definitely about the history of data science, where it came from, the marriage of statistics and computer science, and different things that have happened, really since 1940 on, that have helped us understand the role of data and how to use data to do predictive pieces. Things like Turing and the Turing machine all kind of are discussed in this, as well as it quickly gets into feature importance and things of that nature, starting to look at overfitting, a lot of different pieces around that one. So a lot of exercises in helping you understand some of those pieces. And again, we talked about the code, so that there's two code-based modules, and they're pretty heavy on code. If you've never done code before and you're not a coder, these will take a while to get through. If you've done code, it should be no problem. It's just learning a different syntax for pulling in data, for making tables out of data, for manipulating those tables, or data frames in R. I'm not sure what they're called in Python because I didn't do that one. But really taking the time, if you're not super familiar with programming language, on things like R for data science will add a lot of value to what you do at the customer site. So the first one's just an introduction, then we'll get down to some of the others. Now, again, we're starting to get much more into the data science side of the house. So we got all the kind of basics built. Now it's, okay, how do I start manipulating this data, right? Because everybody can just put data into a tool, select a few columns, say I want to predict this column and have it spit it out. I could, if you're not familiar how to do that, I could probably show you how to do that in the afternoon, and you'd have something to show people. But when you're at a customer site, typically you're going against something else, or you're trying to get to a certain number. You want to be able to predict this 87% of the time. There'll be competition against other tools or other vendors who might say, hey, we can get to 90% accuracy on these things. So you'll always want to be working to better and improve what you're doing. So some of the basic data science concepts, again, very heavy into the statistics side of the house on the data science essentials. And then machine learning. And this really is about not just Azure machine learning, but the basics of things like classification, clustering, recommenders. One of the big things we do with Azure machine learning is a recommender model. Probably one of the top things from websites, especially e-commerce websites, is use some type of recommender, either recommending a product based on the current product selected in the shopping cart, or recommending a product based on customers, or recommending customers on churn analysis. There's lots of things to do with some of these algorithms. And so understanding in great detail how they work and what can cause false positives and things of that nature is really important. Then we got into a much heavier R. So the first one, again, pretty light. And if you follow along with the exercises, you can probably pass that without too much problem. Now it got much more complicated in R, and a lot less things that were spoon feeding you, and much more about things you had to, here's the file, go figure out this. And it's like, ooh, okay. So now we start working with some of the notebooks, if you're familiar with notebooks in R. So you can actually run multiple lines or multiple sets and sections of R code together. You start to pull in more CRAN packages, which is really the library of other R modules out there. And that's the power of R, is all the packages like that are in CRAN that give you those things. And you also have the Python option as well. In this one, again, we talked about the options here. Applied machine learning was not available when I went through this, so I'm not sure, but I've heard from multiple people since then that this has been one of the best ones to go through. So I'm going to go back as soon as I get time to run back through that module. I did the intelligent applications, which is really cognitive perceptual intelligence systems. So looking at voice to text, sentiment analysis, video and picture understanding, bot framework are all built in there. And then finally, the capstone project of the data science challenge. So again, I don't want to go through this exhaustively, or maybe you think, God, he did go through this exhaustively. But I hope I gave you some flavor of three things today. I'll go back to the slides. The first, just touching on that Learn Analytics site. That's really important as we get going forward, because again, the product group will keep that up to date. I'll post a lot of those things in either the blogs, the community calls, or the Yammer site. But I do want you to have direct access to that if you're really stuck on anything. The second, please use the competitions. They are such a great way to do two things. Up your skills, up your game before you're doing it at a customer, so you can have something really strong to talk to them about, as well as possibly, determining, hey, there's a new model or a new way of thinking about some of these, very serious issues we have in the world, especially as it relates to healthcare or other things that involve us as humans that are very important. So use those competitions. I showed you 10, 12 minutes, you can have the first one done, and then it's just iterating, thinking about it, working with your colleagues, talking to other people, going on a website and saying, well, this is the kind of problem I'm having. And again, those are all skills you're going to need when you're saying for a customer, telling them, hey, I know how to do this, this works. And last but not least, spend a good bit of time on the overview of the Microsoft Professional Degree in Data Science. Again, it is a beta, so it could change, subject to change, but as it stands right now, that's the public site. Please feel free to go on it, look at it, and let us know. So with that, I will turn it back over to Nick.
Chris, thank you. We did have a couple of questions that came in. The data science beta program for the degree piece, is that something anybody can go sign up with, or is there an invitation required? What's the process there?
Yeah, so on that site, anyone can sign, or anyone can take the courses and go through those courses on their own. And then there's a place to put your email on that site. So when we do make it official, then it will get sent out to say, hey, this is officially open. And if you've already taken the courses, you already get credit for them. So that's why I showed you the courses, because you can go out there now and start taking them and start passing them. You can audit them for free, and then you can pay if you want to at the end, once we announce the official program. That way you can get the certificate to get your final award on that. Yeah, but yes, predominantly partners. We're focusing all this on partners. There are people at customers that make sense to do this, but this is predominantly a partner-led program.
Outstanding. Good. Thank you. And a couple other things that came in just as point of feedback. There are some people that have gone through the beta program as well who said they highly recommend it. Some said, yes, it was very challenging, but it was worth the effort. So just some good feedback from the community there as well.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Cool. Let's see. Oh, we did have one more question that just came in. What impact will this degree program have on partners in terms of competency, or will it be a part of like MCP certifications or anything like that, or do we even know that yet?
Yeah, nothing to announce on that today. I will tell you, and I don't have it pulled up, but I was going to talk a little bit about 7475. So if you're in this community call, you're probably interested in analytics to a certain degree on technical aspects. So we do have a couple exams. The 70-47X series. 473 is predominantly SQL and data as it goes on-prem and into the cloud, focusing on the SQL side of the house, very important. And then 70-475, which is predominantly on the analytics, everything from data consumption and manipulation in Data Factory all the way through data lake analytics, the analytics storage, analytics, and then visualization. So those are what provide competency, and those are the standard way we'll do that. This being a beta was our first step in that, and I believe you'll see more. Again, it's beta, so I can't promise you, but I believe you'll see more. And if this takes off, then that would be a really solid way to look at that, because again, you can update just one module, because right now if you're taking some of the analytics tests, you're taking it on non-Azure systems, and we really don't want you to do that. We want to be able to update the courses as we go. So nothing to announce today. Please take the exams that you have in your competency day. They are the critical ones. these are steps along the way so you can start to see maybe this is the direction we're going. Does that help, Nick, or would you add to that?
No, I think that's exactly the direction that we've heard so far internally at Microsoft. So it's kind of a stay tuned, but getting plugged in now is certainly going to benefit you in a lot of ways, and it won't hurt down the road in any way. So I think it's a really good thing to jump in and make that effort. No other questions have come in, so unless there are any other questions, folks, we'll go ahead and wrap up the call for today and say thank you for attending. Really hope you learned something. This is a great kickoff to our our data platform and advanced analytics community for the year. Please reach out to us on Yammer, talk to us through there. Let us know what you're working on. Let us know what you need help with. In fact, when we close out the call here in just a second, if you wouldn't mind to stay in your browser for just about an extra minute, there's going to be a survey that pops up on the left-hand side. If you could just answer a couple of questions, let us know how we can make this community more useful for you. What do you want to hear from us? What do you want to learn from us? Really use that comment section to let us know what topics you want to hear from. So with that, we'll go ahead and close the call and say thank you very much. Thanks to Shri, thanks to Chris for presenting to us today, and we will talk to you all next month. Have a great day.